words I say, the less minutes there are.
Great.
So, like you said, we have 30 minutes here, so we'll go ahead and turn it over to you so we don't get bogged down.
Okay, that sounds great. So I am just going to jump in, and this really is an update, but of course, toward the hoped for approval, right, very quickly. And so, what we want to be able to do today is I want to be able to just point out some of the big changes and how we got there, including some of the survey results, which were very interesting in their own right for a couple of reasons. And then really make some decisions about what goes, what stays, and in order, right, to get executive committee and board approval on the scorecard. So a couple things. First of all, one thing that you shared, Todd, with me a while ago, and I wanted to just bring it up. And so I'm going to just go to my computer and make this happen. Oh, of course, it's not going to do it. Interesting. It's funny. I'm going to do this verbally. Todd had shared with me an NGA 2024 performance metrics brief, and this was from December of 2024, very short memo from NGA Center for Best Practices. And the reason I found it interesting, and Todd, maybe you can send this out afterwards, is that when you look at some states and their efforts to create scorecards, I think similarly to you, their intention was, let's get the 3 to 5 metrics, that are really, really going to work. As you know, as you went through this process, you then determined that there's board performance metrics, right? There's public workforce system, performance metrics, and population indicators. And then there's your broader and larger definition and your intention to try to actually create alignment across those broader systems and your larger, broader system definition by creating shared population indicators. So right there, right, you end up with more than just 3 metrics. And even if you just had 3 or 4 in each of those, right, you're up to like 12 to 15, right? And so it starts getting bigger, which we have experienced. Now, the good news is that through the process, we really were, I think, able to put up on a board, if you will, a lot of ideas and a lot of thoughtful ideas. And then through your conversations and the survey, we were able to really winnow that down to a much more reasonable and thoughtful number. But when I looked back, when I was reviewing the survey at states like Delaware and states like North Carolina and Texas, and some others from Colorado, some others from other reports like Tennessee, et cetera, you will absolutely see that they have a set of standard 5 or 6 that really mostly align with the federal WIOA already collected metrics, right? And maybe they have tweaked or added something just like you have to make sure that those WIOA federally required metrics are being customized to what their state really wants to focus on, what their state board wants to focus on. And so that is your priority industry sectors, for example, and your priority populations, which again, much dictated by federal WIOA requirements, but as a board, you having the opportunity to customize your priority populations. So the point being that right there, you probably have 5 or 6 population indicators and performance metrics that are already being collected, but just being customized. But then these other states, again, like Delaware, et cetera, have added additional that are very similar to what you are trying to do. How do we really assess the overall progress toward a shared workforce goal in our state? And even if that's really pushing the limits of what we have collected and even how we can collect this stuff, we're going to put a stake in the ground to really figure out, are we moving the bigger needle forward on something that really matters to us? And so you will see that as well. And then finally, just the board performance metrics similar to you. And so when I look at these other states, it was helpful for me, when I was reviewing the survey results and trying to winnow this down, to see that really a scorecard by these other half dozen states that are doing similar level work as you are, they are somewhere between 10 and 15 metrics. But with the asterisks, right, of a third of these at least are already being collected. And so then it's a matter of the other, whatever, 8 to 10, can we leverage other existing data? So I wanted to preface that, showing you again the scorecard, which you may have already looked at, with that, because I think it is really, really important to know that even though this feels big, there are internal notes for each of these metrics to consider that do point out where we might leverage the information and where we might already have the information. So it doesn't quite feel so overwhelming. That said, again, this is going to become my favorite phrase. That said, we probably still want to winnow this down a little bit, right? And so the decision today will be, do we do another round of survey? Can you see anything?
Not yet. Is Teams
There we go.
allowing for sharing?
I don't know what it is, Lindsay, but even like if I try to pull up the spreadsheet from the email
Yeah.
you sent, it just takes a while to load.
Okay, it just finally loaded on mine. Is anybody seeing it?
Not
We
yet.
just see that this may take a few seconds, like last time that we tried this.
Okay.
I do have
I
it
just
up if
pulled
you
it up
prefer that I share.
separately, and it finally just loaded onto my screen. So
Okay, Aaliyah, do you think it would be faster on your end if I stop sharing and you try? I mean, we
Sure.
also all have this. Okay.
I can share my screen. I have it up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I mean, who knows?
Can you see that?
Knows? I can see
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Here we go.
Yes, I can see that.
All right. I am just cursed here. So
It's Teams. I'm telling you, Teams makes life hard for presenters.
it does.
That's my feeling.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one, because on Zoom, I swear I'm real good at this stuff. But okay, so none of these should be surprising, right? But I want to point out a few things that have been added based on conversations. One is that for especially the board performance metrics in here and the 3 shared goal metrics, you're going to see a category. And so you can see this in 1C, right? It's board performance metric, and this is 2 biennial reports. I had to remind myself biennial means every 2 years. And the category is we're calling this awareness building toward positive outcomes. Here's why we made this category. It's because we want to really signal, right, to you as board members and executive committee members that this is why we have these metrics. This is an awareness building toward positive outcomes, right? So if you were to go down to 9C, which you can see at the bottom, whoops, now in the middle, thank you. This is a board performance metric invitation. So the actual metric is an invitation to governor and partner agency leadership to adopt and contribute to your top shared workforce success goals. This category is influence to impact positive outcomes. So you as a board, right, with this metric, your hope is, and your intention and expectation is that you are influencing positive impact by multiple partners, right? So the third category, let me see if I can find a good example. If you scroll down a little bit more, Aaliyah, Influence to impact. Oh, here we go. So the last one on this screen, again, and this is related to the objective of, okay, governor's office establishes consistent direct lines of communication with you. So your metric is the governor solicits advising and recommendations broadly or on specific topics from the WTDB. So this one really is demonstrating your authority to affect positive outcomes. So I wanted to just highlight that. And if you can go back to column A, Aaliyah. And I'm wondering where I put my asterisk. Sorry about this, everybody. Without control over this. If you can go up to the top, Aaliyah. Maybe it's up there. No, it's not. Okay, that's all right. So we'll come back to that, but I wanted to just highlight that. And here's the reason that this came up. This came up in a really
just sorry, I don't want, but under board performance metrics, you have like asterisk category awareness. Oh, they got small. Category awareness build. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I saw it. Category awareness building toward positive outcomes. There's an asterisk right there. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, and what I was looking for was, the footnote that.
Oh, okay.
shows what
Okay,
the
that goes
asterisk
with it. I got
means.
you. Yeah, is
But
there a
that's
way to
okay.
open this presentation up fully? There's like the little square on the top by the X. If you click it, you get just this as opposed to the top piece. Yeah. No, it still looks the same. Huh. Okay. Never mind me.
Oh, you know what? Do this for me, Aaliyah. Go to the second tab, version 43025 with details. This is what we're going to do. Now scroll down to the bottom. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Okay. So the asterisks, board for performance metrics and shared workforce success goals are labeled by one of three intention categories: authority to affect positive outcomes, influence to impact positive outcomes, or simple awareness building toward positive outcomes. This became really important, right, when the analysts and I all got together to really assess feasibility of any and all of the metrics on your scorecard, because it really did. It was quite obvious, right, that you need to be able to understand what are we trying to do with this, because if we're really trying to immediately affect positive outcome, do we have the authority to do that with this particular metric, for example? And the answer is going to be very clearly no. The board does not have authority to just wave a magic wand and increase 4th through 8th grade math and science outcomes, right? But you do have the influence to impact those positive outcomes with your initiative and your shared workforce success goal. And so these caveats became important, so important that they do need to actually be in the scorecard itself. So that is a piece that I wanted to point out. Let's stay on this tab, because if we can scroll back up to the top, I want to just go through a few of the yellow highlights, which I think there's only 2, because these are things that you had not yet seen. So go back down to the first yellow highlight, Aaliyah. Perfect. So again, this one we added in because in order to model and lead collaboration and systems alignment, the question was, what is our board performance metric for this, right? We have these kind of very broad public WIOA system and larger workforce system metrics of, is there any consistent contribution that we can track, towards shared goals, but what is our actual metric? And so it was a very simple answer of, well, we actually do need to show that we made a formal invite to the governor and partner agencies to adopt and contribute to these shared workforce goals. And so that one is just a new one that had not been discussed, that seemed quite necessary, and also one that is quite feasible and doable, and is you as a board testing out, your boldness to actually make the invite formally and put it out there to your partners. So we'll move on to the next yellow highlight, and then we'll come back and discuss a little bit. So this is one that is a big question in my head. So under the imperative clear understanding of and improved use and impact of the workforce system, we had these three objectives: define and promote the coordination of the public and entire workforce system, create and promote a concise, compelling workforce system brand, and then increase workforce system user awareness and use by primary system customers. So my question, first of all, in the survey, the metric here did not make the cut at all. It didn't make the top 5 cut out of the 10 metrics, right? So when you all rated them and ranked them, it was not even there, right? It was in the, scroll down to the bottom again for me, Aaliyah. I think I made a note on this. Oh, not quite so far, just a little bit. Can you go up one more? Here we go. So stop there. Yep. So I chose the top 5 out of the 10. That's what's in your scorecard now. The next top 3, so number 6, 7, and 8, were these here. So you can see that create and promote a concise and compelling workforce system brand was at least in the next top 3, but really, again, it didn't make the cut, right, for the top 5. So if we go back up to the yellow highlights, Aaliyah, my question to all of you is, what are you doing with this? So you did adopt, right, definitions of public versus larger workforce system. So is that off your scorecard now? Are you done? Check the box? Or what? The question is, what are you doing with that? The next logical step is creating and promoting a concise and compelling workforce system brand, but that metric didn't make your voting cut, which is in the highlight here. Nix, so I put options. 1, nix the corresponding objective. Just nix this all together, create and promote a concise and compelling workforce system brand. Or leave it and add the metric back in that you will, by the end of 2025 or whenever, have a board and WorkSource Oregon approved brand promotion plan as a metric. Or you just have the objective still in there, but you don't really have a metric. Steve?
Yes, so I've got to admit, all of the emails of the heck just kind of just pile up in my feed because there's just so many of them. So I overlooked this, but I definitely would have responded to it because of the work that I've been doing with my consortium and the minority associations. The understanding of the entire workforce system is important. Mm-hmm. Because, for example, this here is based upon the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act and its kind of metrics and guidelines. But when you get into industry, then you've got COVID being the primary driver. And then when you start applying it to a specific initiative like the Governor's Housing Initiative, that's a 10-year project, which means you've got to look at both your current ready workforce. You've got to look at what's the pipeline in post-secondary, and then like the 5th graders right now, 10 years from now, they're going to be, so you have to look at the entire workforce pipeline, and then looking at this from the executive board position. For us to do this, each industry has its own unique specific data, identified barriers, what's really critical. So it's like, how do we quantify that priority population needs and everything that are specific to each industry? And then how do we communicate that So it's just like there's a whole lot of layers in there that the executive committee can't absorb all that. But yeah, so I definitely say yes on that piece there. You have to look at the entire workforce system to come up with a cohesive long-term plan.
Yeah. So as a recap then, I mean, what I'm hearing you say is we somehow this still needs to be in here. Just because we adopted the definition of the public workforce system inside of the larger workforce system, this is still an imperative in your plan: clear understanding and improved use. Your shared workforce goals up above, which are your real bold, metrics, apply to the larger workforce system, per your point. Of we need to be pulling in our other partners that also lie outside of our public system. So the question is, what needs to go in here and how? Todd and Shari, you both have your hand up. Todd, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, and thanks for those comments, Steve. I'm just going to be completely 100% transparent here. I had bias when I answered the survey around this, Lindsay, and that bias was caused by our previous iteration of the scorecard. When yours truly and some other folks tried to move things forward around promotion, awareness building within the state system, several responded with, we already do that. We're not going to, invest. We're not going to spend, a bunch of effort changing, improving, tweaking the brand. So there's that. But coming from in my past life, business, marketing, business development, I think this is critical. And if there isn't, so side note, if there isn't budget or funding to throw at these efforts, I do think it's important. And I think probably somewhere in the realm of partners coming together and agencies in particular that have communications departments within the workforce system to do some of that, improved understanding of the workforce system might be a potential solution. Thanks, Shari.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it didn't make the top 5 just because I think we had a lot of things, and I personally don't think it was any kind of, overwhelming sentiment. I mean, we just had a lot of things we were trying to answer. However, the fact of the matter is a clear understanding of an improved use, defining, that is a linchpin for our work with the governor. So, because that's one of the things the governor's office has said they want from us. They want from us defined, clear understanding that they can, click into. So consequently, I think it is definitely not something we want to nix. We don't want to leave it. We do want to leave it, I think, and add back in with a matrix because a metric rather, because it is a linchpin of our value add. I mean, part of our value add for the governor is that we can do that and that we have that and that the governor doesn't have to, and her office doesn't have to stumble around and try to figure out what all that is. So I would think it just didn't make the top 5 because there are so many things to choose from more than it was intentionality. I think to Todd's point, though, we have taken several runs at this, and I personally feel we have a lot of that information available. And I think to Todd's point, maybe it's more getting another agency that has that capacity or somebody to take the information we already have and put it together in a way that is, that does this. So my suggestion would be to leave the objective and add the metric back in.
Okay. So is the metric board WorkSource Oregon approved brand promotion plan reasonable? I mean, I hear your points, Todd, too. There's lots of opinions and politics and, et cetera. But thanks, Anne. but still, is that the right metric, right? I mean, you still have to push through and get there, or does anybody have the right language or right level of metric in mind that would be better? And also the define and promote, is the metric, is there a metric there, or is that really just wrapped into create and promote a concise and compelling brand, is my other question. Look at the chat. Sorry, folks, I haven't been. If no strong opinions, Todd, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. I don't mean to put you on the spot, David, but I'm kind of curious about sort of a multi-agency strategy. I know that Employment Department has a very strong communications department. HEC has a bit smaller one, I think. I believe there are similar communications departments in some of the agencies. So I'm just wondering if it's something that we could leverage across the enterprise and sort of lean into that idea of a communications marketing plan. Maybe we lost David.
No.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'm here. I think we've had discussions, including with HEC, about this, because I do think it's important that we get the brand out there in a more unified way. My big concern is one of resources. We have a significant communication shop. We also have a bunch of programs and a lot of communication needs outside of the WorkSource Oregon system. So if we're talking about system, the workforce system promotion, I don't think it's fair to pick one or two agencies and say, with your existing resources, you need to pull them off of other work from, for instance, working with the Paid Leave Oregon program or unemployment insurance to define this for the entire system. I know we had talked with OWP and with HEC about the possibility of some of our staff spending some of their time and resources working alongside someone else that was kind of leading that. So we can certainly be a contributor, but I don't think it's realistic. If our budget doesn't get changed, we're going to be cutting another 51 positions from our base budget and just not meeting core customer service. So I just don't think we have the resources to do a big lift there to the extent of what is needed to really accomplish getting it defined, getting it promoted, and having it be effective. We can and should contribute, but I think that it's a larger discussion about resourcing.
Okay. So this may be also where we really identify an interim.
Lindsay,
Metric.
I think Steve had his hand up. I don't know if anybody else did. And then we're at pretty close to our time. I know a lot of people have hard outs. So
yep. Steve, go ahead. And then really, those are the only changes that I needed to talk to you about. Nothing else should be a surprise in here, but then I'll just need input from everyone via email or just quick thoughts in the chat right now on how much more are we reducing this down, or does it feel like we're getting close? So Steve, go ahead.
I think our role is to make the case to the governor why these resources are needed for this. Because if we have this, this is the outcome that can be produced to help you achieve your goals. Mm-hmm. So our role is to make the case. And so yes, we have to figure out collectively how to condense this down into something that's digestible to say, this is why this is important. Mm. That's our role. Now, how we get down to that, I think like the local workforce boards are key, because they're the ones that are actually boots on the ground working with all the partners. So now it's really important that their reports are going to have to become more specific around these metrics. They've got to be sharing. Their report has to line up with what we agree on the metrics that we need in order to make the case to the governor of why this whole thing is important. So our role is to make the case why these resources and fight for the resources that are needed. And because we know we're all going to be fighting for resources, but how do we make sure this gets prioritized and show the governor how it's going to benefit her and her initiatives?
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a great point. That's really helpful because I think we can actually make that into a board performance metric directly related to this imperative, right? And if it's true that this is a linchpin issue, Sherry, with the governor, Steve's point is even more important. Okay, well, we've gone over, so we probably need to close this, but I think from here, those are the only questions and updates that I had. So now it's a matter of I'm going to send out another survey. It's going to be a lot shorter and more concise, and it is going to be, can you live with this? If not, what are you cutting? And I think as many people as respond to that as possible, and that's really going to be the final push here.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay. And thank you everyone for taking time out of your day. I know it's hard to, steal 35 minutes, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thanks,
Thanks, Steve.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.